Today is my 34th birthday, and to celebrate, I'm going to tell you 34 things you didn't know about reptiles. The first thing that you didn't know about reptiles is crocodilians climb trees. Now, this is an iguana. They're known for climbing trees. You see these guys in trees, it's where you'd expect them. But have you ever seen a photo like this one or this one? Now, the reason is some crocodilians are trying to thermoregulate, and especially during the parts of the season where it's kind of cold, they're going to choose to climb trees. Of course, they're not going to be in the crown of a tree like Doug was last summer, but you will see them off of the ground, and most people don't know that. I bet you didn't know that some reptiles are great mothers, like those crocodilians we were just speaking of. In fact, Nile crocodiles, the fathers will actually take care of the eggs, the nests, and sometimes the babies for extended periods of time, where most snakes or lizards will lay the eggs and then hightail it out of there. Think of sea turtles, where the baby sea turtles have to make a run for the ocean. Crocodilians don't do that, and neither do king cobras. King cobras will actually sit on their nest, the males and females taking turns guarding that nest until the day those eggs hatch. Did you know that some reptiles can live in the Arctic? Now, I'm up here in Canada and we've got Doug outside, we've got a turtle trying to bite my feet right now, which is crazy enough considering where I live, there's only one native lizard species and only a few different snakes in this province. But I'm nowhere near the Arctic Circle. But in parts of Europe and Asia, there is a viper species that lives north of where the Arctic Circle begins. Talk about cold-blooded species. Did you know that some species of lizards can fly and so can snakes? Well, sort of. What we're talking about is paradise flying snakes and other flying snakes, and then Draco lizards also. Crazy enough, the flying snakes eat the Draco lizards if they get a chance. And they don't really fly, they will spread flaps of skin or spread their ribs in the case of the flying snake in order to create a surface for air to go underneath, and they will glide from tree to tree. I do think it's pretty cool, and they kind of do look a lot like dragons. The fifth thing you didn't know is lizards and snakes and other reptiles can't change their body temperature by themselves. They are ectotherms, which means they rely on the environment. Well, except for at least one. The Argentine black and white tegu, during breeding season especially, can increase their core body temperature by up to 10 degrees Celsius. That's quite a bit. There's a detailed scientific explanation for that, and leave it in the comments section below. We could do a whole video about it. We haven't talked about Mushu in quite a while. Number 6, turtles can breathe through their butts. Well, this is a tortoise, and all tortoises are turtles. Bonus fact. But what I'm talking about is aquatic turtles that live in environments where it gets really cold in the winter. It's called cloacal respiration. I could go an entire video on this, it would take forever to explain. But basically, when it gets really cold, turtles can kind of sort of breathe through their butts, and that's how they get through the winter. Number 7, turtles and tortoises are not in their shells. They are their shells. This is what their skeleton looks like, which means that he's got arms and legs and a spine, but the spine is actually attached to this curved little shell of his, so you can't take him out. He's not like a hermit crab. He doesn't go and find a bigger shell when he outgrows this one. The shell grows with the turtle or the tortoise their entire life. Number 8, snakes are venomous, not poisonous. Well, actually, some of them are both. Keelback snakes, for example, there's several species, but this one that we found in Thailand is both. It is both venomous and poisonous. If you were to get bit by it, it would really not feel good. And if you were to eat it, it would be a bad day for you too. Not only that, but some species are both venomous and poisonous, like some species of garter snakes. Some species of garter snakes will eat a type of newt that will metabolize in their liver and turn into poison if you were to eat them. And garter snakes, of course, are rear fang venomous, even though they wouldn't harm a human. Chameleons don't change their color. Instead, chameleons will change a little bit of their contrast or their hue in terms of their mood, if they're gravid or not, or to camouflage, but they can't change from green if they're sitting on green sunglasses to pink if they're sitting on pink sunglasses or whatever that silly commercial was back in the day. Some snakes are venomous, but aren't lethal to humans. For example, hognose snakes, which I love and have a bunch of in this room, they are not going to kill you if they bite you. It's gonna feel like kind of a bee sting. Some people who are allergic to bees are gonna have a problem being stung by a bee. I got stung by a bee yesterday and can't remember which finger it was on. Same thing with hognose snakes. In certain animals like garter snakes, there's generally no reaction at all for humans, but if you are a frog, it's gonna be bad news bears. Lights out for you. Number 12, some species can live up to 100 years or even more, like tortoises, for example. Tortoises, for example, with great examples like Lonesome George, a tortoise that we all love and we all know, can live well past 100 years. Alligator snapping turtles are another great example of this, and of course crocodilians, some of those can live over 100 years too. Some species of reptile have a partial eye, or a third eye on the top of their head. Sometimes you can see it, some species are relatively useless, others actually have a function, sometimes having a cornea and a lens. This doesn't mean they can see through it like one of the eyes in their face, but it does mean that some species can see shadows over their head. And this is why when you go over the top of some agamid species or other animals, they're gonna feel a little insecure. The reason that they have this, or at least we think, is so they can see shadows for things like birds that might snatch them off of the ground. This is why, for the most part, if front opening and closure is better than a top opening, they'll feel more secure when you're coming directly at them, rather than from over top, and now you know why. Number 14, keeping tons of reptiles is actually pretty easy when you use today's sponsor, Husbandry Pro. I've been using Husbandry Pro for years. This is how I organize all of my animals, how I know when all of them shed, when all of them poop, when all of them need to eat. I don't need to pull up a spreadsheet or look at a notebook. I open up the app on my phone or on my desktop and boom, I can just type in the animal that I need, the animal that I want to know everything about, and all of the information is right there. Recently, I got 31 snakes all on the same day. It took me about 15 minutes to put them all into the system, and now every time they eat, I know which one does and which one doesn't, which means when it comes time to sell these animals, transfer over the animal file to the person buying them, and they have the record of this animal all in one place, rather than having to write an email or a text message or a note. It's all right there. I can't imagine having 100+ animals like I do now, or even 30 animals or more, without having Husbandry Pro. And if you want to try it out for free, you can, and under 6 animals is always free. Give Husbandry Pro a shot. I'm so glad that I did. So hit the link below and start organizing your animals the right way. The girl reptiles don't need males in order to reproduce. Well, for some species, it's called parthenogenesis, and parthenogenic animals will oftentimes reproduce without a male present. A great example, the best one I can think of, is mourning geckos. Mourning geckos are almost all females, the one that you're gonna find in the pet trade. They're gonna rub each other a little bit, kind of like saying, hey, what's up? You wanna make some babies? And all of a sudden, some eggs will form glued to the glass or a cork hide or whatever, and then baby mourning geckos come out a couple of months later. Chances are, if you've got mourning geckos, you've never had a male one. But this isn't just mourning geckos. Animals like Komodo dragons we've recently discovered can be parthenogenic. There have been female Komodo dragons that have never seen a male in their life, and all of a sudden, they're producing offspring. Did you know that lizards are venomous? Well, not this one, but some species are. Gila monsters and beaded lizards from the southwest of the United States, and of course into Mexico, these animals have a terrible bite. Not bad enough it'll likely kill you, but unlike most lizards, they are considered actually venomous with venom glands. We're also discovering that quite a few species of varanid, which are monitor lizards like the Komodo dragon, not only have a bad bacteria, but a true venom in their mouth too. This is an iguana. Did you know that iguanas blow snot rockets out of their face to expel sodium? And it's not just green iguanas from the North America, South America region, but also Fijian banded iguanas, which are from nowhere near them. There's a whole video right here if you want to know how they're related, but not. They'll do the same thing. They will literally blow a snot rocket out of their face in order to get rid of the sodium, and it's usually in your face when you're trying to make videos. Trust me. Some species outlived the dinosaurs. Well, sort of. The oldest species of any reptile is this thing, a tuatara, which is obviously a lizard, right? Actually, no, it's not a lizard or a snake. It's its own thing that evolved millions of years ago, and it's the last living one. Tuatara don't have external ears. They have a very different, unique jaw with teeth coming out of the top of their mouth and many other things that separate them from true lizards. Did you know that some species of lizards will do push-ups to try to get a mate to like them? It's not just humans. Lizards do it too. Some lizard species can walk on water. Well, sort of. This is a basilisk, sometimes called the Jesus lizard for obvious reasons, walking on water. He uses surface tension and fast-moving feet that are really big in order to hold his weight, and he will run on the surface of water. Now, he can't sustain this for very long. It's very, very short times, but that can help him get from one spot of land or branch to another spot of land or branch over a water distance, and it's too long for him to jump or swim through. Some species double as gardens. Of course, I'm talking about the Mary River turtle, this turtle here from Australia, that will actually grow moss on its head in the back of its shell to help it camouflage. Geckos don't have eyelids. Well, sometimes. There are certain species like leopard geckos that that do have working eyelids. In fact, their Latin name means good eye or good eyelid. Either way, the point is they've got eyelids, and there are other species too, like African fat-tailed geckos or Chinese cave geckos that do. But most geckos will lick their eyes or have a transparent eyelid that doesn't look like a functioning eyelid like a leopard gecko. So in essence, most geckos don't have eyelids. Snake scales are made of the same thing as your fingernails. It's called keratin. It's kind of like a skin cell, very similar in the way that it grows, but if you've ever wondered what they're made of, just look down at your own hands. Number 24, the temperature of the egg incubation determines whether it's a male or female gecko. Sometimes. There are several species where this works. It's called temperature sex determinant. For example, my leopard geckos, I often breed right at about 85, 86 degrees because that is going to produce half males, half females. If you do it a little bit lower, it's gonna be mostly females. If you do it a little bit higher, it's gonna be mostly males. And if you do it really high, you'll get really aggressive females. Some lizards don't have any legs. There are glass lizards or legless lizards, and there's several species of these animals coming from all over the world. They've evolved to have no legs. For some reason or another, the legs were a burden to them. But what separates them, amongst other things, is sometimes they'll have eyelids that actually work, or they'll have external ears. They can chew food with their mouth like a lizard can, and those are the things that make them a lizard and not a snake. Reptiles can squirt blood through their eyes. Well, this species can. This is a horned lizard, and there's a few different species of them, and some of them are better than others. But in general, you're gonna find them mostly western part of the United States into Canada as well. Horned lizards are tough to find. I tried to find some looking in a place where I know they were, couldn't find them, but even if you can, chances are if you spook them or scare them and make them think that you are going to eat them, they're gonna squirt blood from their eye, and that is a deterrent if I've ever seen one. Reptiles sometimes pretend to be bugs. Sometimes. It's called caudal luring. Great examples of this are snapping turtle tongues will look like worms and they'll wiggle them around so a fish comes close and then snap. That's how they eat their meal. The spider-tail viper from the Middle East. This animal has a lure on its tail that looks like a spider. They use it so that birds will come on in, try to eat that spider, and then all of a sudden the bird is the snack for the snake. Number 28, some smell like death. That's right, some snakes will use the smell of death in order to prevent a predator from eating them. It's called musking. A lot of colubrids do it. For example, I had this fantastic Crebo snake, and every time we pulled him out, he musked on us. It smelled like death. Water snakes do this too, and because of water snakes' diet, eating fish and amphibians, it smells fishy and disgusting. So if you ever catch a water snake, first of all, he's probably gonna bite you. Second of all, he's gonna musk on you, and just in general, he's gonna make you wish that you never picked him up in the first place. They do this because most animals don't eat dead things, so I mean, this wouldn't work for a vulture. Some snakes pretend to be other species. For example, milk snakes. Milk snakes have what's called Batesian mimicry. These snakes look very similar to these snakes, which are coral snakes. How do you tell the difference? Well, there's rhymes and ways to know, but in general, if you don't know what you're looking at, don't pick it up. The whole idea is that a milk snake is trying to look like a venomous coral snake. Some snakes can store sperm for years. This means that if you bred your boa constrictor 4 or 5 years ago, and all of a sudden now she's pregnant, it's not because your neighbor's boa constrictor snuck in through your window at night, it's just because she can store sperm for a significant amount of time. Not all species can do this, and most species don't, even if they can, but if you ever acquire an adult animal that all of a sudden seems pregnant or gravid, now you know why. Some pythons, like Burmese pythons, can actually shiver to contain body heat on their eggs. For example, Thunder, a Burmese python of mine, I would see her shivering on her eggs while she was laying them. Of course, we took the eggs away, but this would be something you'd see in the wild in order to conserve heat and make sure those eggs stay good. Reptile skin doesn't grow with the animal. That's why they shed it. Sure, it can stretch a little bit, so they're not going to shed their skin every millimeter that they grow, but eventually they're going to need to shed their skin so that their body can grow. And that's why you see younger snakes shed their skin more often than adult snakes who are growing much slower than they used to when they were younger. Did you know some reptiles will live in groups? And we're not talking about just leopard geckos and common species, but monkey-tail skinks from the Solomon Islands. In fact, you'll never find these guys without a mate or at least a few different animals all in the same tree hanging out together. So if you keep monkey-tail skinks in captivity, chances are you want to keep them in a small group. And lastly, number 34, the sun produces UVB, but you can't see it. lizards can. And that's why sometimes they'll act completely different. UVB is super beneficial, which is why I keep all of my reptiles that can stand to be outside during the summer outside during the summer. Doug, my green iguana, he loves it, but it doesn't make him go crazy. Other animals like black and white tegus, they see you very differently in UVB. It makes you look completely different. And because of that, sometimes they have different personalities out in the sun. So sure, we might be top of the food chain, but when it comes to seeing things, reptiles are sometimes quite a bit better. There you go, 34 things you didn't know about reptiles. Let me know in the comment section below something that maybe I didn't know that I could include in next year's video. Thanks for hitting like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. For my birthday, don't buy me anything, just like hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. As always, Patreon, videos early, discounts on merch, all that and more for as little as $1 a month. And because we do videos twice a week, that means I'll see you on Monday. I've got cake to eat.